Welcome to On the Beat, everyone. I'm Troy Thompson. I'm joined in the studio today by Patrick Wooten, who's from Schwartz Associates, injury lawyers. And today we're talking all about what goes into accepting a case, especially when you call the office. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good to see you again, Troy.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about if I've had an accident and I don't know whether it's serious or not, or whether I need a lawyer.
Yes, sir.
How do you determine that for me?
That's a great question. That's one we get many times from our callers is what makes a case? And really there's three pillars, and we'll specifically talk about an auto accident.
Okay, perfect.
There's three pillars that come in. One is liability, which is the term, how did it happen? How did your wreck happen? Was it a red light dispute? Were you rear-ended? Did someone come over, change lanes and come over? So that's a big one. First is we need to know how did it happen?
Yeah.
So we can identify whether Troy's at fault or Nancy's at fault or who's at fault. So we can make the next determination of were there injuries? We certainly don't want anyone to be seriously injured, but that happens all the time. So we need to determine if there's injuries, because injuries are what lead to ultimately a recovery from an insurance company. And then really the third pillar is insurance, which gets into, is there liability insurance, which we've talked about before? Is there uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist coverage? And all of the trails that goes down to is insurance on the car, insurance in your household, is the owner different from the driver of the car? So those are the three main legs we look at, and then we drill down deeper into each of those.
I'm curious to know, how do you determine, when you're obviously asking these questions on the phone call?
We are.
And then, so your team behind the scenes, is there a definite list of questions that they ask you, and then they decide whether you have a good case, or do they get passed over to one of the lawyers?
Well, that's great. It can go both ways. You know, some are very specific, as I was stopped at a red light, I got rear-ended, I went by ambulance, so our team is empowered to be able to accept that case based on the guidance from myself or Richard, you know, who are supervising that department. You get some more confusing ones that happen, and so they will call myself, or they will call Richard, or call one of the other 22 attorneys at the firm to be able to say, hey, I've got this fact scenario and I'm not exactly sure. And then we'll get on the phone with that potential client and ask the probing questions and make the determination whether we want to accept that case and start the investigation on their behalf.
So when you do all of that, I want to sort of skip along a little bit, because the process can take a little while to get the case going, especially with insurance companies. Who determines what the payout is? Do you try not to go to court? Do you try to determine what the outcome is before having to go to court? Is that an easier option?
Yeah, you would like to be able to resolve the case on behalf of the client without the necessity of going to trial, because it's more timely, you know, and most people don't want a trial. They don't want to have the stress and strain of actually going and sitting in a courthouse for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, you know, because when you settle it, you're actually in control. You're the one who's making that decision as to whether you want to accept the offer that has been negotiated between the parties. Versus a trial, you've put your fate in the hands of 12 people. And you don't know what 12 people are going to do, so you don't have control at that point.
I think the hardest thing is for people when they have had an accident, of finding out who is the right people.
That's right.
To call, because we see lots of commercials, right?
You do.
What makes you stand out from the pack? Let's say the pack.
I think that's a great question. One is, we are born, raised, we are Mississippi. 5 offices across this great state, 24 attorneys, a team of 110 staff behind those attorneys, and we do personal injury. That's all we do. You know, we are a personal injury law firm, as the title says, you know, Schwartz Associates injury lawyers. So this is what we specialize in. We deal with probably more automobile cases than any other law firm in the state of Mississippi. So we know how to build the case to be successful, and we know what to get from insurance companies.
We appreciate you as always, sir.
Thank you, Troy. Good seeing you.
If you want to find out more information, there it all is up on the screen for you. Schwartz Associates injury lawyers. Back after this short break.